You really think a man like him would look twice at someone like you? That's what they said when Kylie Roberts walked into his glass tower with a clipboard and a dream. They saw a billionaire. She saw a man hiding behind numbers. For 10 years, Owen Davis avoided love, emotion, and anything that couldn't be measured in profit. Until a single mother with paint on her sleeves and hope in her voice made him remember what heartbeats sound like. By the time he realized it, he wasn't saving her. She was saving him. Stay with us. Because what begins as distance turns into devotion. For 10 years, he avoided love to protect his heart, until a woman who had lost everything taught him how to feel again. Where in the world are you watching from tonight? Drop your city in the comments. Have you ever protected yourself so well that you forgot what it felt like to be truly seen? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Black Stories Untold with Love, and ring that notification bell for more heartwarming stories that celebrate strength. Owen Davis stood beneath the overhang of the Westbrook Community Center as rain painted the pavement in shimmering sheets. The collar of his coat was turned up, shielding his neck, though his face remained bare to the cold drizzle. He didn't flinch. He never did. The wind pushed against his tailored suit, charcoal gray and untouched by the weather, as if the elements knew better than to disturb him. At 42, Owen had the kind of presence that made people go quiet when he entered a room. Broad shoulders, sharp jaw, silver streaks in his dark hair that seemed to announce both wealth and wear. His eyes were a flat, distant gray, like storm clouds with no promise of rain. In New York circles, he was known as the Ice King. Emotionless, unshakable, brilliant, and cold. He glanced at his watch. The driver was late. That was rare. A flash of color pulled his attention. Across the street, the community center's doors opened wide and laughter spilled out. Children ran through the puddles, backpacks bouncing, raincoats fluttering like flags in the wind. A small boy hesitated at the door, tugging at the hand of a woman behind him. She stepped forward, and everything around Owen seemed still. She wasn't dressed for the cold, not really. A navy blue hoodie pulled over curls that framed her face. No makeup, jeans tucked into worn boots. But there was something regal in the way she moved, like the rain didn't touch her either. Her hand rested on the boy's shoulder as she guided him in. He clung to her waist for a moment before letting go, and the smile she gave him was pure warmth. Not performance, not duty, just love. Owen felt a flicker in his chest. Unfamiliar, unwelcome. The woman looked up then, briefly. Her eyes met his from across the street, large and dark and unafraid. He saw curiosity there, not recognition. She didn't know who he was. That alone made her different. The boy said something. She looked down, laughed. Her hand stroked his head gently, then pushed the door open wide enough for him to skip inside. She followed, letting it fall shut behind her. Owen stayed rooted, watching the rain cascade down the brick wall where she had stood. The door opened again. A volunteer stepped out, saw Owen, then did a double take. "Are you here for the fundraiser?" Sir Owen blinked. "Number, wrong address." She looked disappointed, but nodded and retreated back inside. Owen looked down the street. Still no driver. He could feel the pulse in his jaw, tight and steady. He didn't know her. He didn't want to. That was the agreement he had made with himself long ago. Keep life clean. Keep life simple. Empires had no room for feelings. Feelings blurred focus. Feelings had cost him once. He wouldn't let them again. But as the rain slowed and his car finally pulled into view, Owen glanced back at the door she had walked through. And for the first time in 10 years, he wondered what it would feel like to step into someone else's world instead of always waiting in the shadows of his own. Not because he was needed, but because he wanted to. The chairs were arranged in tight rows beneath the paper stars that hung from the ceiling. Tables lined the back wall with trays of finger food, juice boxes, and pitchers of lemonade. Crayon-colored signs announced, "Readers are leaders," in uneven handwriting. It wasn't elegant, it wasn't impressive, but it was alive. Owen adjusted the cuffs of his pressed shirt as he stood just inside the doorway. He had planned to send a check. Quiet, efficient, but his assistant had insisted he attend the kickoff event. "Build community trust," she'd said. "You need more than numbers on a ledger." He'd barely listened, but now he was here, and everything smelled like glue sticks, old carpet, and too much hope. A volunteer approached him with a bright smile and waved him toward a folding chair in the front row. He moved stiffly, like a misplaced statue, drawing glances as he walked. Most people offered polite nods, unsure if he was someone famous or just someone important. He gave neither confirmation nor denial. Then he sat, and the air shifted. She was already in the seat beside him. Kylie Roberts glanced at him, then back at the stage where a group of children was organizing their note cards for short speeches. Her curls were pulled into a high puff, and her sweater had a stain near the hem. She didn't cover it. She didn't shrink. She crossed her legs and whispered encouragement to a nervous girl who peeked out from behind the curtain. Owen didn't speak. He rarely did, unless it served a purpose. But when the girl ran onto the stage and began reading a story she had written herself, he saw Kylie lean forward, eyes full of light. She clapped first, loudest, and when no one else moved fast enough to follow, she stood and gave the child a standing ovation. After the reading, the host asked a few of the sponsors to introduce themselves. Owen was nudged forward. He cleared his throat, said something forgettable about community investment and literacy access, then stepped back quickly. The applause was soft, unsure. He sat down, jaw clenched. Kylie didn't turn to him, but her voice was low and clear. "Is that all you've got?" He blinked. "Excuse me, your speech sounded like your accountant wrote it." He looked at her, startled. Most people scrambled to impress him. She didn't even seem curious. She was watching a boy on stage now, laughing when he skipped a line and kept going anyway. He tried to find offense, but all he felt was curiosity. "Do you run this program?" Kylie nodded without looking at him. "Started it 3 years ago. We run off donations and caffeine. Mostly caffeine." Her son Carter was last to speak. He wore a suit that was slightly too big and spoke with the seriousness of a judge. Owen found himself smiling. When Carter was done, he ran straight to his mother and hugged her waist. She knelt and whispered something that made him beam. Then she turned and caught Owen watching. For a moment, they just looked at each other. Her eyes didn't soften, but they didn't close either. Not impressed by power, not interested in charm. She had a different currency, and Owen realized he had none of it. The second time Owen walked into the community center, no one stared. The third time, someone handed him a clipboard and a stack of books. By the fourth, a girl with missing teeth called him Mr. O and asked if he liked glitter. He told her yes. She covered his lapel in a silver sticker. He didn't take it off. He told himself it was about visibility. Good press, corporate responsibility. But he came early and stayed late, helped stack chairs, listened to Carter explain why dragons were misunderstood, read aloud to a circle of children who leaned against his legs like he was something safe. He had not felt safe in years. That Thursday was reading night. Carter finished a book about a time-traveling fox and tugged on Owen's sleeve as the last word was read. "We're having dinner after. You should stay. Mom made baked mac and cheese, the good kind with the crunchy top." Owen hesitated. He had a reservation across town, a chef who only served 12 plates a night. But Carter's eyes were wide and expectant. Something uncurled in Owen's chest. He nodded. I'd like that. The community center's back room was transformed, long tables lined with mismatched plates, string lights glowing above, parents passed casseroles, kids played tag between chairs. The air smelled like cinnamon and roasted vegetables. Owen didn't know where to sit until Carter dragged him to a seat beside Kylie. She wore a plain black dress, sleeves pushed to her elbows, a smudge of flour near her shoulder. Her hair was tied back, and her laugh was louder than the music. She didn't glance at Owen until Carter sat between them, grinning. Mom makes the best food in the world, even better than restaurants. Kylie looked at Owen then. Her eyes were amused. That depends on the restaurant. He smiled, and it surprised him how easy it felt. They passed dishes, talked about books. Carter told an animated story that made Owen laugh, a real laugh, not the polite kind he used in boardrooms. It came from someplace deeper. The rain started halfway through dessert, a soft percussion against the windows. Kylie pulled her sweater tight and stood to help clean up. Owen followed without thinking. She wiped down tables. He gathered plates. They worked in silence until Carter fell asleep in a chair, head tilted back, mouth open. Owen took off his jacket and draped it over the boy. Kylie glanced at him but said nothing. He looked at her, the curve of her cheek, the tension in her shoulders. Something in him stirred. Let me give you both a ride home. She dried her hands. Her voice was kind but clear. Thank you, but no. It caught him off guard. Not the refusal, the softness in it. She wasn't pushing him away, just holding her ground. We're good. She picked Carter up carefully, balancing his weight against her. Owen opened the door for her. The rain swept in sideways. She walked into it without flinching. Owen stood in the doorway watching her disappear into the storm. She didn't look back. She didn't need to. And that was the moment he realized something had shifted. He wanted her to. The cemetery was quiet. Just wind, gravel, and a single crow perched on the bare limb of a tree that had forgotten how to bloom. Owen stood in front of the headstone without moving. He hadn't been there in 7 years. Not since the funeral. Not since the promises he made and broke, all in the same breath. Her name was Lila, the last person who had seen him cry. He remembered the way she used to lean into him mid-sentence, like her whole body trusted him to catch it. He remembered how she had loved color, every scarf, every shoe, always too bright. He had hated it then, missed it now. The flowers in his hand were plain, white lilies, safe, impersonal. He set them down anyway and exhaled slowly. I thought forgetting was easier than remembering, but I haven't forgotten anything. I just stopped feeling it. He didn't know if he was talking to her or to himself. Across town, Kylie Roberts sat in the back office of the community center with an open folder and an exhausted heart. The lights flickered above her, one of them always humming just a little too loud. She ignored it. Like she ignored the peeling paint, the budget spreadsheet in the red, and the ache in her shoulder that never really went away. A photo of Carter sat beside her, missing front teeth, chocolate on his chin. That smile was her reason for everything. She used to be someone else. A girl with a college scholarship and a plan to travel. She had been engaged once, to a man who said all the right things but disappeared when the pregnancy test came back positive. No apologies, just silence. So she stayed, took night shifts, started the literacy program from her kitchen table, built something real from pieces no one else wanted. She never complained, but she never expected anything from anyone either. Later that afternoon, Owen walked through the center's front doors. He didn't know why he kept coming back. The board had started asking questions. His driver had given up on trying to understand. But every time he stepped inside that building, the cold that lived in his chest thinned out just a little. Kylie was sitting cross-legged on the floor of the reading room, surrounded by books. Her hair was tied up. She wore mismatched socks. She looked like the calm in someone's storm. He watched her a moment before speaking. "Have coffee with me." She didn't look up. "No, thank you. That's the third time you've said no. Then maybe it's time to stop asking." He waited, but she didn't soften. "I'm not trying to impress you," he said finally. "I just want to talk." Her voice was even. "Then talk here, with the kids, where it counts." Owen didn't argue. He nodded and walked away, footsteps soft on the tile. Behind him, Kylie watched him go, a whisper of something flickering in her chest. She didn't trust Easy, not anymore, but something about the way he asked, not demanding, not performing, stayed with her longer than she wanted to admit. She went back to the books, still sorting, still building, but now wondering what it might mean if someone chose to stay. The morning of Carter's birthday began like any other. Kylie packed his lunch, tied his sneakers, kissed his forehead twice for luck. He bounced out the door with the energy only 8-year-olds possessed, clutching a crumpled drawing he'd made for his teacher. She smiled as she watched him go, but behind her eyes was worry. She hadn't been able to afford a party this year. No new toy, just a homemade cake and a hug. He never complained, but she felt it. By noon, the community center was buzzing. Tables were covered with fresh books wrapped in blue ribbon. Every child received 2. Carter's name was written in bold letters on a poster near the reading corner. Kylie froze when she saw it. Carter's eyes lit up like the sun. He ran to the front where Owen sat in the reader's chair, holding a copy of Galaxy Nights, his favorite book, the one he always checked out until the cover peeled. "You remembered," Carter whispered, staring at Owen in disbelief. Owen gave him a wink. "Ready for liftoff?" Carter nodded so hard his curls bounced. The room hushed as Owen began to read. His voice was calm, deep, steady. Children leaned forward, wide-eyed. Carter sat cross-legged at his feet, completely still, completely spellbound. Kylie stood at the back, arms crossed. She knew who had paid for the books, who had made this spectacle. She was furious. This wasn't the kind of help she asked for. It felt showy, like a billionaire trying to buy his way into her life. But then Carter turned to her mid-reading and mouthed, "Thank you," even though she hadn't done any of this. His joy was unfiltered, and for the first time in a long time, he looked like a kid who didn't know what it meant to go without. After the reading, Owen quietly helped clean up while the kids explored their new books. Kylie found him by the stack of boxes near the supply closet. "We need to talk." His shoulders straightened, bracing. "If you did this to impress me, it was the wrong move." "I didn't," he said. "I did it for him." She folded her arms. "Why?" "Because he deserves to feel seen. And I thought maybe it was time someone showed up for him without being asked." She stared at him, and something inside her shifted. "Thank you," she said softly. "He'll remember this for a long time." "So will I," Owen said. Then after a pause, "What about you? What about me? Would you let me take you to dinner? Just once. No strings, no stage, no boardroom suits." Her guard hesitated, then lowered. "One dinner, not a fundraiser, not a strategy session. Just food," he promised, "and maybe laughter. If I'm lucky." She sighed, but there was the ghost of a smile in it. "All right then, one real dinner." Owen nodded, a quiet victory settling into his chest. It felt like the start of something he hadn't dared to want in years, maybe even the beginning of a real yes. The restaurant was quiet, tucked between a laundromat and a flower shop with flickering neon. Nothing fancy. No white tablecloths. Just warm lights, cracked leather booths, and a jazz record spinning low in the background. Kylie arrived 10 minutes late, hair pulled back, earrings small and silver. Owen was already waiting, sipping water, the knot of his tie loosened like he'd tried to dress down but forgot how. She sat across from him and smiled, soft and uncertain. The waiter took their orders and left them in a silence that neither rushed to fill. "You look different," Kylie said eventually. "Different how?" Like someone who finally took a breath. Owen looked away, but not before she saw the flicker in his eyes. Dinner moved slowly. They talked about Carter, the program, the weather, her favorite ice cream flavors. He asked questions, real ones. She answered with honesty he hadn't earned yet, but wanted to. When the check came, he didn't rush to pay. They lingered, glasses empty, hands resting on the table just close enough to almost touch. Outside, the street was damp with the aftermath of rain. He offered to walk her home. She said yes. Their pace was unhurried. A breeze played with the hem of her coat. He noticed a freckle on her collarbone and had to look away before the thought stayed too long. "You always this quiet?" she asked. "Only when I don't want to ruin something." She stopped walking, turned to him. "You think you'll ruin this?" He didn't answer, just looked at her like she was a question he wasn't sure he deserved to ask. She stepped closer, close enough that their breath met between them. "I'm not asking you to be perfect, Owen. I haven't done this in a long time," he said. "I don't know what I'm doing, neither do I. But I'm here." He walked her to her door, didn't ask to come in, didn't kiss her, just touched her hand once, gently, and left. They saw each other again, and again. Coffee after Carter's reading nights, weekend walks through the park, quiet dinners in places without valet service. Kylie learned Owen loved old books and hated elevators, that he kept photos in his wallet but never looked at them, that he had taught himself to be alone so well he forgot what it felt like to be wanted without condition. Owen learned Kylie read poetry at night to fall asleep, that she hummed when she cooked, that her strength had edges, but they were worn soft from years of holding too much without help. They laughed more than either expected. They stopped watching the time. But every now and then, she caught him retreating, going quiet, pausing before he touched her like permission might slip away. One night, she asked what scared him. "Everything," he admitted. "Needing you, letting you need me, losing it before I even know what it is." She didn't offer comfort, just reached for his hand. "Then let's start with holding on." He squeezed back, but his eyes betrayed the fear still lingering beneath the surface. It was love, quietly blooming, and it terrified him. Kylie hadn't meant to hear it. She had walked into the hallway looking for her scarf, left on the back of Owen's chair after their quiet dinner in his apartment. Carter was asleep in the guest room, curled under a galaxy blanket Owen had picked out himself. The night had been full of laughter, stories, burnt cookies they tried to fix with whipped cream. It had felt real. Then she heard his voice. It was low, tired, almost worn. "I don't know if I can do this. This kind of life. It's chaos. It's loud. It's not who I am." A pause, then softer. "She's amazing, Carter too, but I don't know how to fit into something already moving without me." She didn't hear the rest, didn't wait to hear if he changed his mind mid-sentence. She stepped back, quietly enough not to be noticed, picked up her scarf from the floor, and slipped out the door. He never saw her leave. The taxi ride home was silent. Carter never stirred in her arms, but Kylie felt something heavy settle into her bones. She had promised herself not to hope too much, had warned her heart not to believe in fairy tales just because a man read bedtime stories and made late-night pancakes. She had almost let herself fall anyway. Almost. Owen stood in the kitchen after the call, unaware he had just shattered something. He poured himself a drink he didn't want and stared at the quiet corners of his penthouse. The city buzzed below. His phone vibrated with emails, numbers, meetings, deals. He didn't answer any of them. It wasn't until he peeked into the guest room and saw the empty bed that it hit him. She was gone. The scarf on the floor. The folded note on the nightstand. Thank you for the stars, but I need someone who wants the whole sky. He sat on the edge of the bed for a long time. Too still. Too late. In the days that followed, he tried to go back to normal. Meetings resumed. Reports piled. The board praised his new partnership with a tech firm. His name trended for 48 hours after closing a billion-dollar deal. But nothing touched him. The penthouse felt colder than before. The scent of her lotion lingered on his pillow. Carter's drawing, still taped to his fridge, felt like a goodbye letter he couldn't answer. He avoided the community center, told himself she needed space, told himself she would call, that he would explain, that one conversation would fix it. But deep down, Owen knew he had let silence win again. And this time, it cost him the one thing he never thought he'd want, a second chance, a real one. And he had watched it walk out the door without even trying to stop it. The call came just after midnight. Owen had been sitting alone in the dark, glass untouched in his hand, the city lights smudged across the windows like fingerprints he couldn't wipe clean. His phone lit up, the screen unfamiliar at first. A local number. He almost let it go to voicemail. Then he saw the name. Carter. He answered on the first ring. His voice was small, shaky. I fell off my bike. I'm at the hospital. Owen sat forward, already reaching for his coat. Are you okay? Silence on the line. Then softer. I thought you were my friend. Owen didn't reply. He just moved. Fast. Keys, elevator, car. Every red light became a suggestion. His heart hammered in his chest like it hadn't in years. When he arrived at the emergency room, the lights were too bright. The smell was sterile and sharp. Kylie stood at the check-in desk, arms crossed tightly, face unreadable. She turned before he could speak. You shouldn't be here. He ignored the words. His eyes scanned the hall. Where is he? Exam room 3. But he's fine. Scrapes. A mild concussion. He'll be sore tomorrow. She didn't soften. Not even a little. You didn't call me? Owen said. Why would I? Kylie snapped. You made it clear this isn't the life you want. He flinched. She didn't stop. He asked for you, and I told him not to expect anything. But he called anyway. Because he still believes people mean what they say. Owen looked away, jaw tight. I never stopped caring. But you stopped showing it. A nurse stepped into the hallway. Room 3 is ready for a visitor. Kylie turned to go. Owen followed. Inside, Carter sat on the edge of a narrow bed, a bandage on his forehead, one arm in a sling. His lower lip trembled, but he tried to smile when he saw Owen. Hey. Owen's throat closed. Hey, buddy. You didn't come to reading night, or movie night, or the space fair. I know. I'm sorry. You said we were a team. We are. Then why did you leave? Owen knelt beside the bed. His voice was unsteady, raw. Because I got scared. Not of you. Not of your mom. Of me. Of messing everything up. Of caring too much and losing it anyway. Carter blinked. That's dumb. Owen let out a laugh that cracked in the middle. Yeah, it really is. Kylie stood in the doorway, arms still folded. But her expression had changed. Just slightly. Owen looked up at her. I didn't just let you down. I let myself down. I thought I could keep control by keeping my distance, but all I did was prove I don't know how to hold on to the things that matter. He turned back to Carter. But I'm here now, if you'll let me stay. Carter didn't hesitate. He reached for Owen's hand with his good one. Okay. But only if you watch Star Wars with me when I get home. Deal." Behind them, Kylie exhaled. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. But maybe it was the start of it. The community center was quieter on Saturdays. The noise came in short bursts. Sneakers on the gym floor, whistles from the soccer coach, shouts of encouragement and laughter that echoed down the hall. Owen stood on the sideline in a plain black hoodie, clipboard in hand, trying to look like he knew what he was doing. He didn't, but he showed up anyway. Every weekend he tied cleats, passed out orange slices, picked up cones. When Carter scored his first goal after the accident, Owen cheered louder than anyone, fist in the air like a proud uncle who had waited his whole life for that moment. Carter ran to him after the game, sweaty and grinning, and tackled him in a hug. Kylie saw it from across the field. She didn't wave, but she didn't look away either. That was enough. Owen started showing up to more than games. He helped Kylie repaint the reading room, donated shelves without anyone asking, read stories on Wednesday nights, stayed after to stack chairs and walk Carter home when Kylie worked late. He never overstepped, never expected more. He just kept showing up. When the board at Davis Holdings pushed back on his new schedule, he didn't flinch. He canceled 2 investor trips, turned down a speaking engagement, outsourced what he could and ignored what he couldn't. The suits grumbled, the headlines speculated. He didn't care. Kylie noticed the change, not in his wealth, not in his words, but in the way Carter lit up around him, in the way Owen waited to be let in instead of knocking down the door. One afternoon, Kylie stopped by his office to drop off flyers for an upcoming fundraiser. She had never been there before. The building was all glass and sharp angles, humming with efficiency. But his office was different, smaller than she imagined, warmer. A plant in the corner, a bookcase filled with children's books and leadership manuals, and on his desk, a single framed drawing. Carter's. 3 stick figures under a crooked sun, one taller than the others, with a big smile and a soccer ball at his feet. Above it, scrawled in thick green marker, "Mr. Owen, my real-life hero." She stood there for a long time, holding the flyers against her chest. He walked in a moment later, still in a Davis polo, sleeves rolled to his elbows. "Didn't expect you today. Just dropping these off." She nodded toward the drawing. "You kept it." He looked down at it. "Always." She met his eyes. "Why?" "Because it reminds me who I'm trying to become." Kylie didn't smile, but something in her posture softened. The tension eased, like a weight she'd been holding finally had somewhere to go. "You're doing all right," she said. "So are you." She turned to leave, but paused at the door. "You know, he doesn't call you Mr. Owen anymore. Not when he talks about you at home." Owen's voice was quiet. "What does he say?" She looked over her shoulder. "He just says Dad." And then she left, leaving the door open behind her. Owen sat down, looked at the drawing, and let the silence fill with something new. Not grief, not guilt, but grace. The sky above the community center was painted in early evening gold, the kind of light that made everything feel softer. Balloons bobbed in the breeze, tied to folding chairs and fence posts. The laughter of children carried across the lot like music. Inside the courtyard, tables overflowed with cupcakes, chips, and homemade lemonade. The cake was simple, chocolate with bright blue frosting. Carter's name scrawled across the top in shaky letters by his own hand. Owen stood just outside the front doors, the same place he had stood a year ago, cold and uncertain, watching a woman he didn't know and a little boy who didn't belong to him. Now, everything had changed. Now, they were his. Kylie moved through the crowd with practiced grace, her curls piled high, her sundress fluttering with each step. She was laughing at something Carter said as he tried to balance a plate of cupcakes and juice without spilling either. He looked up and caught Owen's eye, then ran toward him at full speed. "Dad, I saved you one with extra sprinkles." Owen knelt to take the plate. "You really do know me." Carter grinned and threw his arms around him, frosting smudging Owen's shirt. He didn't care. He hadn't cared about the mess in a long time. Later, when the sun began to lower behind the buildings and the kids were chasing bubbles across the grass, Owen called Carter over. "I have something for you." He handed him a plain white envelope. Carter opened it slowly, carefully, like the paper might break. Inside was a card. On the front, a cartoon rocket soaring through stars. Inside, in Owen's handwriting, "Officially adopting you is my honor, but loving you has always been my choice." Carter read it once, then again. "Is this for real?" Owen nodded, voice thick. "If you want it to be." Carter didn't answer with words. He launched into Owen's arms so hard they both tumbled back onto the grass. From across the yard, Kylie watched, her hand resting over her heart. She walked over slowly, crouched beside them. "That was a big surprise," she said, her voice soft but steady. "I wanted him to know," Owen replied. "Not just today, always." Carter darted off again, chasing a balloon that had gotten loose. Kylie stayed where she was, watching Owen sit back and look around at the chaos, kids yelling, music playing, napkins flying like confetti. And yet, he looked peaceful, settled. She reached for his hand. "You're home now," she whispered. He turned to her, and something in his expression broke open, not with fear this time, but with relief, like a man who had spent his life searching for the map and finally realized he'd been standing in the right place all along. Love had never been the danger, it had always been the destination. If this story stayed with you, share it. Because there's someone out there holding everything together the way Kylie did, quietly, gracefully, without applause. She didn't need saving, she needed to be seen. And when Owen finally looked, he realized love had been waiting in the simplest of places. A child's smile, a woman's courage, a home full of light. Comment below if you've ever been the strong one, and finally met someone strong enough to stand beside you. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like, drop a comment, and share it with a friend. And don't forget to subscribe to Black Stories Untold for more stories that uncover hidden struggles, celebrate strength, and remind us that every voice matters.